The courtroom didn't feel like justice that morning. It felt like television. The air buzzed with microphones, perfume, and nerves. Every reporter knew that when Keith Urban walked through those double doors, something irreversible was about to happen. He wasn't there to defend himself anymore. He was there to detonate the myth. The quiet country boy from Nashville had turned into a man holding proof. Receipts that hummed like live wires. Hidden audios, encrypted chats, and screenshots sealed in an envelope that could bury a career. When he set them on the table, even the judge leaned forward, trying to read the storm inside the silence. Across the aisle, Maggie Baugh sat still, her oversized sunglasses trembling more than her hands. A few months ago, she'd been the darling of every country playlist. Wide smile, tear-airy interviews, and the heartbreak anthem that had every fan hashtagging her name. But that morning, all the charm looked borrowed. Her lawyer whispered, she didn't blink, and in the back row, Nicole Kidman appeared like a portrait in motion, impeccable, unreadable, dressed in the kind of calm that makes people nervous. When the bailiff announced the case, cameras flared like lightning. Keith didn't speak. His lawyer did. A single tap on the microphone echoed before he said, "Your Honor, we will demonstrate a deliberate act of deception intended to destroy my client's reputation." Gasps scattered through the benches. The first exhibit appeared on screen. A threat of messages, blurred names, but unmistakable tone. Someone begging a technician to adjust DNA results. Someone promising money for silence. Every flashbulb fired again. The whispers spread fast. The pregnancy that never was. The hospital pictures traced back to Pinterest boards. The tears rehearsed on live stream. Within minutes, the court clerk had to demand quiet. Outside, social media was already building the timeline. Each post, sharpening like a knife, Maggie Baugh had claimed betrayal. Now she looked like the author of a fiction gone wrong. But this drama didn't start here. It started with a late-night broadcast. A live stream where Maggie cried under ring light glow, accusing Keith Urban of using her, ghosting her, ruining her life. The world believed her. Sympathy came easy. Outrage came faster. Within hours, talk shows were calling it country's dirtiest secret. Hashtags trended. Think pieces bloomed. And through it all, Keith stayed silent. Until now, the next exhibit wasn't text. It was sound. The lawyer pressed play. A woman's voice filled the room. He'll regret walking away. I'll make sure he does. The courtroom froze. Some said Maggie flinched. Others swore she whispered, "That's not me." But it was too late. The damage was oxygen. Nicole Kidman didn't move. Witnesses said she simply crossed her legs, her diamond bracelet catching the fluorescent light like a scalpel. She'd lived through scandal before. Through rumors that melted marriages and headlines that rewrote love stories. But this time, it was her husband on the witness list. When Keith looked her way, she gave the faintest nod. Approval or warning, no one could tell. By afternoon, reporters outside had turned the courthouse steps into a stage. Every outlet screamed the same headline. Keith Urban flips the script. But inside, tension crackled louder than flashbulbs. Maggie's lawyer tried to steer sympathy back, calling her misguided, not malicious. It didn't work. The prosecution unveiled metadata, proving the files had been edited, fonts mismatched, timestamps impossible. The crowd laughed when one expert said, "It appears this document was made on Microsoft Word at 2 a.m. Even the judge cracked a smile. And yet, behind the comedy, the cruelty lingered. Fame wasn't armor, it was a magnifying glass. Keith had spent decades building an image carved from melody and modesty. Now, one influencer-fueled scandal threatened to unmake it all. The gossip wasn't about truth anymore. It was about who could narrate it louder. Then came the turning point. A voice note surfaced, allegedly recorded after Maggie's viral rant. The same trembling tone said, "If I can't win with love, I'll win with headlines." The gallery murmured. Keith's attorney didn't look triumphant. He looked tired. When he glanced at his client, Keith just exhaled. The kind of breath that sounds like surrender. During recess, Nicole was spotted speaking quietly to him near the hallway. A reporter later claimed she said, "Let them see the truth, nothing else." It was the first time she'd been heard since the chaos began. Her calmness rattled people more than any outburst could. Back inside, Maggie Baugh tried to reclaim the narrative. Her statement framed the entire scandal as digital manipulation, claiming hackers distorted her messages and enemies conspired to erase her. But when the forensic expert took the stand and confirmed the evidence came directly from her verified cloud account, the defense table fell silent. You could hear the camera shutters clicking again, like the sound of dominoes collapsing. Fans outside cheered, others booed. Nashville hadn't seen a spectacle like this since the days of televised trials. TikTok filled with reenactments, some mocking, others mourning. Hashtags like Dodge Urban Redemption and our fake baby files shot up overnight. Even late-night comedians found their new obsession. Inside the courtroom, Nicole watched the chaos unravel through glassy calm. One journalist wrote that her stillness was scarier than rage. When Keith's lawyer rested his case for the day, the room exhaled in unison. Keith Urban, who'd been painted as a cheater, a liar, a fallen idol, had just clawed back his name with proof. He didn't gloat. He just looked relieved, as if he'd been underwater too long. As they exited the courthouse, Nicole placed her hand on his arm. Paparazzi shouted questions. Was it true? Was it over? But neither spoke. Only a faint smirk crossed Keith's face. Something between exhaustion and quiet victory. The headlines that night called it the Nashville trial of the century. But for those who were inside that courtroom, it felt more like a confession, disguised as justice. Because beneath the drama, beneath the memes and the headlines, something darker pulsed. Rumors of forged files didn't appear out of nowhere. Someone had helped Maggie Baugh orchestrate this chaos. Someone powerful, hidden behind the glare of the cameras. And as the bailiff locked the doors for the day, a whisper rippled through the press benches. Tomorrow it gets worse. The next hearing promised new witnesses, new leaks, and possibly new betrayals. Keith Urban had won the battle of receipts, but the war for truth was just beginning. When court resumed the next morning, the tension felt heavier, like the air itself knew another explosion was coming. Reporters were already waiting outside, clutching microphones like weapons. Inside, Maggie Baugh entered quietly, her confidence stripped away, sunglasses gone, mascara faded. Gone was the performer. What stood there was a woman cornered by her own creation. Keith Urban arrived minutes later, head high, voice low, flanked by his legal team. He didn't look angry anymore, just determined. The kind of calm that comes after you've already lost sleep, tears, and patience. When he sat down beside his lawyer, all eyes turned to the screen behind him. A digital analyst took the stand, describing how the supposed DNA files on Maggie's server were forged. Wrong fonts, wrong metadata, wrong everything. The analyst even said whoever did this wasn't careful. They were desperate. A wave of whispers rolled through the gallery. Even Nicole Kidman, composed as marble, tilted her head for the first time. The next moment broke what was left of Maggie's defense. Prosecutors revealed an email trail showing she had written to Keith's team under a fake name, pretending to be a lab employee, offering a settlement option to keep things quiet. The implication was clear. Hush money, the room fell silent, then. Hush money, the room fell silent, then. One hand resting on her lap. Face unreadable. She wasn't gloating. She wasn't angry. She was studying the downfall of a lie with the precision of someone who's seen too many. When her name was called to testify, she rose slowly, the sound of her heels echoing like punctuation marks. Her statement wasn't emotional. It was surgical. This has caused harm to my husband, to my children, and to our integrity. The truth matters, and so does peace. No drama, no tears, just clarity. The words rippled through the courtroom, then the internet. By the time she stepped down, her quote was trending globally. But the defense tried one last play. Maggie's lawyer claimed there were flirtatious texts that proved an emotional connection between them. The courtroom gasped again. Keith's attorney calmly stepped forward, held up the evidence, and said, "Those were sent to a public fan line, not his private phone." The entire gallery broke into nervous laughter. Even the judge smiled faintly. It was over and everyone knew it. Yet, even victory can turn poisonous. As the media celebrated Keith's redemption, a whisper spread that the case might reach federal investigators. Allegedly, the fake DNA transaction crossed state lines, pulling it into potential fraud territory. Suddenly, this wasn't just about fame. It was about criminal intent. That night, social media exploded again. Hashtags like Dark Maggie Gate and Our Urban Justice dominated timelines. Some called Maggie a manipulator. Others insisted she was being used by higher powers. Conspiracy threads bloomed. Record labels, managers, even silent investors supposedly tangled in the mess. For once, no one knew who the villain really was. Then came the leak. A former manager released a private recording where Maggie's voice said, "If I can't get him with the truth, I'll get him with the story." The internet didn't need a jury after that. Within 24 hours, her sponsors vanished, tour dates evaporated, and fans quietly unfollowed. Meanwhile, Keith Urban's silence became his greatest weapon. He didn't post. He didn't explain. He just kept walking beside Nicole, head down like a man too tired to perform. His songs climbed back to the top of playlists. People called him the quiet phoenix of country. But behind the polished calm, insiders whispered that Keith had discovered something darker inside those files. Something that linked the scandal to a production entity under Nicole's umbrella. A single line in the leaked documents hinted at it. Damage control via emotional framing. Fans debated what it meant. Critics called it proof of Hollywood engineering heartbreak for profit. By the next hearing, Maggie's social media accounts were gone, wiped clean as if she'd never existed. The court clerk filed new testimony, stating Nicole Kidman might be recalled to the stand for further questioning. That one note was enough to reignite every headline. The same question echoed through every studio. What would Nicole say if she returned on the courthouse steps? Keith finally spoke. Just one sentence. "I'm done protecting people who don't deserve it." It was enough to send tabloids spinning. Was he talking about Maggie, about Nicole, or about the industry that let it all happen? No one knew, and that uncertainty became the next season of gossip. Reporters said his hand looked lighter. No wedding ring, no smile. Others swore they saw Nicole leaving separately that afternoon, her face hidden behind dark glasses, her phone pressed tight to her ear. By evening, a single clip surfaced online, a shaky video from inside the courtroom, a faint whisper caught on mic, a woman's voice saying, "You weren't supposed to say that," a man replying, "You left me no choice." It went viral instantly. The internet couldn't tell who spoke, but everyone had theories. And just like that, the story looped back into chaos. Was this revenge a setup? A power play between stars who built an empire on silence? Maybe all of it, maybe none. As the final recess bell echoed through the hall, Keith Urban sat alone for a moment, eyes closed, the flashlight still bursting outside. Somewhere down that hallway, Nicole Kidman was preparing for her next move. Whether to defend him or distance herself forever. Either way, when she walks into that witness box, the truth won't just end a scandal. It might end a dynasty. It might end a dynasty